Hey, welcome back to another Dragon Ball Super review. Today we're going to be reviewing episode number 89, so strap your seats in and let's go ahead and talk about it. So hope you guys enjoy it. Subscribe if you are new. This is a weekly thing on the channel. So anyways, let's go ahead and talk about it. So episode 89 does feature Tenshinhan's dojo, which is pretty cool, seeing him basically training a bunch of guys. The episode begins with Goku basically wondering where Master Roshi is. He goes over there. I think he runs into Oolong, and Oolong says, hey, he's actually a guest over at Tenshinhan's dojo. And then they go over there, and Goku's like, hey, I could kill two birds with one stone, and ask both of these guys to join. Now, there's a lot of inconsistencies in here, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But if you aren't familiar with it, this is one of the things that happens in the Dragon Ball Online timeline. Like, a lot of Xenoverse and Heroes is adapted from that, and it seems like Super is honestly doing some of the similar things too. I mean, it all kind of makes sense because it basically all comes from the same mind in Toriyama, but still, you know, it's coming from a video game. So regardless, it's not that big of a detail. It's a minor thing. But Tenshinhan has a dojo, and basically Goku goes there, Master Roshi's there. There's this girl named Yurin, not the P, not spelled like P either, but it's Yurin, Y-U-R-I-N, and she is basically a very, very old character. She is from when, I believe, all the way back in Dragon Ball, whenever they make her seem like she's like a teenager, but I guess it could be. It's weird. You know, whenever they left the Crane School, so they haven't shown those guys at the Crane School in those get-ups, especially in those get-ups, since Dragon Ball, basically. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say she's from there, but you can correct me if I'm mistaken. But anyways, she is here. She calls him Three-Eyed Baldy, which later on in the episode when she does that, he recognizes exactly who she is because he remembers that because nobody else calls him that, apparently, which is, you know, I guess, you know, something that other people would call him because, you know, if they want to insult him, that's what you would do because he blatantly has three eyes and nobody is, you know, alarmed by that. But I guess, you know, you live in a world in Dragon Ball where a dog is your king, so you know, I digress. Anyways, back to the plot. Basically, from there, what happens is she becomes an antagonist for the episode. She's using witchcraft and talismans to control all of Ten's students and Master Roshi. So Master Roshi peeks a couple of you know, a couple feels and some visuals there. He oh my god, this guy pulls off her like belt around the robe, and he's like, they popped out, and she falls over later when he's fighting her, and he's like, oh my god, I can see them, they're striped. He's looking at her panties. I'm like, this guy is like such a like that's like borderline molestation, and it's it is fucking molestation. Oh my god, it's you know, in Japan stuff like that flies, so it is what it is. Anyways, from there, Master Roshi is probably the best part of this episode, to be honest. You know, Master Roshi, after he gets, you know, the witchcraft used on him by Yurin, which he chants a lot of carnations and incantations. Excuse me if I'm stuttering a little bit in this video. I'm not feeling too hot, but anyways. Afterwards, Master Roshi does proceed to fight Tenshinhan, and whenever they're fighting, basically Ten breaks out the forearm technique. I don't think we've seen that either since Dragon Ball, which is a lot of throwbacks. Now, Master Roshi pulls out the little lightning technique that he did to Goku. Again, another thing that hasn't been shown in a long time, so I do like what they're doing. I do appreciate that. You know, and the longtime fans, the people that have seen the other series, would be able to recognize certain things that they're pointing out in Super. And Super's kind of always done stuff like that, so I do like Super for that regard. But what happens is Ten goes down incredibly easily. Now, it's never said in the episode whether or not that was due to the talismans or if that was just Master Roshi's innate power, right? Because the thing is, you would be inclined, because any other time you would see something like this, some sort of talisman possession that you see in other animes, because this isn't the first time it's ever been done in anime. I've seen it before personally. You know, there is some innate power-up that comes along with that. So you would be inclined to think that is what happened here, and that would obviously be a bit of headcanon, but it would explain what happens and how he is able to overpower basically Tenshinhan, because we know Ten is a guy that always trains and never stops training, and Master Roshi, apparently, which I'll get to in a second, you know, never really trained as far as we were aware of, right? So I'm guessing, you know, that could be the case, but regardless, if it isn't, it's a bit of an inconsistency. Not that crazy of one, but I do know people will be upset with it, because it's like you have this old guy versus this young guy, and this young guy never stops training either, even if the old guy never stops training. But, you know, Ten is basically visibly taken back by the fact that it's Master Roshi. He was like, you know, even under the control, it's still Master Roshi. So it's like, you know, Muten Roshi-sama. So it's like he is like borderline scared. He's respecting his abilities because he is who he is. But I mean, come on now. This is a guy that was able to hold back second form Cell, even though he shouldn't have been able to do that. And he deflects a blast from Super Buu. Like, come on now. Ten has always had inconsistencies with his power, but are you telling me that Master Roshi, at least under Talisman control, is stronger than, you know, something of that nature? Tien that's able to do those things? That's kind of weird, because you would think that they would be stronger, but you know, you kind of just gotta not pay attention to that stuff, because it's going to get worse in the next episode with Goku and Gohan, and, you know, some of the inconsistencies there, and some of the inconsistencies in the previous episode with Gohan and Piccolo. It's just like, whatever. You just don't care anymore. I said it before, you know, when they started doing this with Krillin and with Android 18, that they're going to have to get everybody to the same level. You know, they have to make these characters relevant. And I'm sorry, they spent so long building up Goku and Vegeta to the detriment of the story. They shouldn't have done that. They should have never allowed Goku and Vegeta to get so much stronger than everybody else, because now what they have to do is make plot holes and inconsistencies. It doesn't make sense, but they have to do it, because that's the only way these characters can be relevant, unless they have something that's similar to like what happened in the Resurrection F arc and Resurrection F movie, where they fight like side, you know, grunts, basically the Frieza soldiers. So anyways, Tien and Krillin, or not Krillin, excuse me, Master Roshi conclude their fight. Basically, Goku has to save Tien, so there's that. And Goku's fighting Master Roshi. He's like, yeah, this guy's been secretly training, all these other things, you know, completely hyping up that. So they are making completely positively sure that you are aware that Master Roshi is only fighting at that level because he has been training this whole time. You know, if you look at it in Dragon Ball Z, they had the Scouter in the beginning, and it was like power level 300 something, right? You know, around then, that's basically when he was still really relevant as a character, one of the strongest characters there was. And then, of course, we kind of just move on from him. He doesn't really proceed in anything anymore. Of course, he fights in Resurrection F, but those soldiers were said to be super weak, so it's like you can't really accurately gauge him, but apparently he never truly stopped training. So that's an interesting little tidbit for him. I don't know how strong he is in relation to other characters, but I guess it's feasible to say he's like, what, top 5 now? You know, behind Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, Android 18, or 17, both of them, I guess. I feel like 17 is significantly stronger than 18, but that's another discussion. And Majin Buu and Piccolo, you know, ahead of basically Tien and Krillin. You know, Roshi's there, which you would think he'd kind of be at the end of it, because obviously a lot of people were speculating he'd be there for, you know, the older leadership and stuff, but he'd still be there for that. But it's just kind of weird. It really is. But I do understand. And then at the end of the episode, they all wrap it up. She is allowed to join his dojo, and you know, they say, hey, we have like 8 hours left. They have 10 members, 8 hours left, so they're going to go ahead and start wrapping up. We're going to get into the Tournament of Power soon. I have looked at some of the spoilers. I'm not going to talk too deeply about them. One thing I will mention is the female Saiyan does make, or Saiyans make a appearance here. We do see that the girl from the intro, actually, the one that's touted as being Kale from the spoilers. That should be her name, Kale. But sorry if nobody knew that, but I mean, it's just a name. It's nothing crazy. You see the character in the show. If I am not mistaken, she is the one from the intro, so that's cool. And Caulifla is another female Saiyan. Kabe shows them Super Saiyan, and she's like, hey, I'm peaked. I want to go ahead and learn how to do Super Saiyan. So we'll see what develops from them. Anyways, hope you guys had an awesome Sunday. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. And let me know your favorite part of the episode and your least favorite part as well. So anyways, have an awesome day, and thank you for tuning in as always. And I'll catch you guys in the next review next week. But yeah, peace out, guys.